As a kid, I was pretty artsy. Whether it was drawing and painting or making mini movies with my toys, it felt rewarding. And I'd always liked fashion. Over the course of the pandemic, I took time to explore that interest and found a new passion. Later on, I became a drama kid, acting, directing, combining all of my interests. I felt like I was at the top of my game. When I became the costume designer for a big show at school, it felt only natural. After a recent hiatus, I desperately wanted to jump back in. I felt like I was more than ready to take up the task, or so I thought. I'm Olivia Marchieski, and this is the story of how I stared chaos in the eye and came out on top. I started out by trying to balance everything: schoolwork, drama, sports, home life. But it quickly went downhill. Because of the pressure I experienced, I put off everything and instead threw myself into design, struggling to regain my standing in drama. Work, 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 work. That's what my life became, and it felt exhausting. Not only did I want to create something meaningful, but there were also certain levels of greatness set by the director himself, a level of greatness that I was determined to achieve. I went the extra mile and worked long, strenuous hours while dreaming up elaborate designs that the director liked, but I was unsatisfied by. Tensions were high. The drama building began to feel more and more like a prison, but the harder I pushed, the more my body began to push back. Now, you remember that long hiatus I mentioned earlier? Well, a month or two prior to my design gig, I came down with COVID for the second time. And even though I was only out for 2 weeks, it felt like an eternity. And while it didn't take a toll on my health then, it certainly did so now, with a vengeance. My attendance really took a turn for the worse, and I missed more and more class and fell even further behind, struggling to catch up. It didn't take long before I was terribly overworked and burnt out. But the director kept on pushing, and I wasn't one to not deliver, so I kept on going even though I felt like I had nothing left to give. Coffee, Advil, stress. That's all I seemed to live on then, while working in an environment that barely helped me achieve my goals. Spending all my time in a cramped, fluorescently lit room with tired eyes and sore fingers brought me just before my breaking point every single day. Finally, my body said enough is enough. I woke up on the cold cement floor of the drama building with a group of students surrounding me. I had fainted. It shouldn't come as a surprise, but to me, it was a wake-up call. Literally. I so desperately wanted to prove to everyone that I could still handle things like before that I forgot to think about myself, to put myself first. Over the course of 2 long months, even I had noticed how the simplest things had become a challenge. I couldn't do the things that I love without being met with shaky hands or fatigue. Not to mention, I was on the verge of failing. Every problem I had been ignoring or putting off for later had all come crashing down on me. So what was I to do? That's the thing about reaching rock bottom. The only place you can go from there is up. I threw away the yerba mates, laced up my Converse, and started focusing on costume design again, but this time coming from a new approach, this time with myself in mind. The more I focused, the more inspired I became, not only in my role, but as a student as well. Newly motivated, I started turning in my late work and showing up to class more. I participated and studied well. By the end of the year, I was flourishing. And yes, I was tired, but satisfied because of all the hard work I put in paid off. And not only were my costumes a smashing success, but my grades gone up too. Without design, I probably would have saved myself a lot of stress, but I wouldn't have learned about myself in the way that I did. I found balance within, and by doing that, I got my groove back.